Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall continue to cast our critical eye over the 10th edition Imperial Guard Index. This time, taking a look at one of GIGACHAD's most bombastic special characters, Sergeant Harker. This muscle-bound GIGACHAD is so strong that he can wield a heavy bolter like other men wield a las cannon. It is said that he came to kick ass and chew glass, and he's all out of glass. And some even dare whisper that Harker does not teabag his enemies, he potato sacks them. But regardless of the many fantastical stories that surround Mr. Harker, we here on the Mordian Glory channel have but one question. Is he any good in the new edition? Well, there's only one way to find out. We need to put on our GIGACHAD Devil pimpin' boots, make a bunch of lictors our bitch, and dive right into today's episode. As is tradition, we shall begin this video with a brief overview of what the hell Sergeant Harker actually is. He is the third special character that is available to the GIGACHADs, and interestingly, one of the more recent ones. I say more recent, it's all relative. Strachan and Marbo may have been introduced back in 3rd edition, but it's not like Harker just popped out the ground in 8th. He was first introduced to us in the 5th edition Guard Codex. What made him stand out from his compadres is while Strachan was a close combat beast and Marbo was a sneaky assassin, Harker actually brought some pretty decent fire support in one compact package. He does this by uniquely being one of the few guard officers that actually can do decent long-range damage by himself. Think of all the other guard characters that we know, even the ones in 10th edition right now. They're all wielding some variety of pistol or sword, but none of it's really going to have an impact on the battle, and most of the time you're just taking them because they're a force multiplier. Harker is unique. Not only can he be a force multiplier, but he also had that dagger. However, in terms of his tabletop performance, Harker's fortunes have always waxed and waned a little bit. In some editions, such as 8th edition, he was damn right S tier, handing out a big bubble of reroll ones to every unit that was nearby. And then in other editions, like in 9th, he was basically a total meme. But good news, all of my GIGACHAD boys. Harker looks like he is starting to get back on top, and he's got some cool new abilities to help him do that. So you know what? Why don't we dive into his 10th edition datasheet right now, and we'll begin with that unit profile. Harker has a movement of 6, toughness 4, save 5+, 3 wounds, leadership 7, and an OC of 1. That is fairly standard issue, although it is hard to miss the fact that he is a stonking toughness 4, and this definitely sets him apart from a lot of other guard characters. Even some of our special characters like Creed and senior officers like Helens, they are limited to that normal toughness of 3, as with many human characters. Don't get too carried away though. He still only has a 5+ save, he still only has 3 wounds. That toughness 4 isn't going to allow him to tank battle cannon shells to the face. It's just going to make him slightly less susceptible to precision weapons, such as sniper rifles. Especially when you combine that with the fact that he has a personal feel no pain ability of 6+. I'm not saying that your opponent won't be able to snipe him out of a unit, I'm just saying it might take 2 shots rather than 1. But now let's move on to Stonetooth's weapons, and interestingly, there's actually something to say here. With most guard characters, it literally doesn't matter what you give them. Bolt pistol, las pistol, even a plasma pistol, it doesn't matter. They're not there to do any damage, and they're probably not going to get the opportunity to do any anyway. But with Harker, he's actually rocking a good gun. His main weapon, one of the main selling points for even including him in your army, is his special heavy bolter called Payback. Now this has a profile very similar to a regular heavy bolter. It fires 3 shots, it's got a 36-inch range, it's strength 5, AP -1, damage 2, and it's even got the sustained hits that most heavy bolters have in 10th edition. The big thing about Sergeant Harker is he has a ballistic skill of 3+. That is really, really good. Most heavy bolters in the guard, especially infantry ones, start off with a ballistic skill of 5+, and you've got to stay still and then benefit from the heavy rule to get up to a 4+. But Harker doesn't have the heavy rule, he doesn't need to stand still, he just sits there or runs around wherever he prefers, and he's always hitting on that 3+. It's brilliant. And don't forget that he can still benefit from orders, especially if he's leading a squad. So suddenly, if his unit is receiving the take aim order, Harker is hitting on a 2+. That's actually very, very impressive. And over the course of the game, if he gets to fire that thing 5 times, will do some damage. It will have an impact. There is not an unrealistic chance that Harker, with payback, will chip off the last wound from the enemy vehicle, will blow away that last enemy infantry ball that's holding that objective, and might actually help you do something important in the game, score you a few extra victory points. Sadly, the same cannot be said for his close combat capabilities, which is a real shame for a GIGACHAD character because they're all about getting up close and personal. Despite the fact that his model has a big Makov machete on the back of it, he doesn't actually have any special close combat weapons. He literally just has the basic close combat weapon profile. And sure, he gets 4 attacks, and sure, it's weapon skill 3, and sure, it's strength 4, but it's AP dash, it's damage 1. Look, you're not taking Harker to punch people in the head. Well, you might be, that's kind of funny. But he's not going to do much damage in combat. He's going to be doing damage at range. But wait, there's more! Because like any good guard character, he has a smorgasbord of abilities. We've already mentioned his core Feel No Pain of 6+, but he's also a leader. But he can only lead GIGACHAD jungle fighters. This is very, very limited. It would be nice if he could join GIGACHAD jungle fighters and infantry squads like a lot of other named characters like Creed, but no, apparently Harker will only hang out with the manliest of men and he will have nothing to do with any other datasheet. Bit of a shame, but it is what it is. He also has the Scout 6-inch ability. This is actually very important because this means that if he does join a unit of GIGACHAD jungle fighters, the whole unit can still scout forward. One of the problems that you can have when attaching things like platoon command squads or priests to GIGACHAD jungle fighters is those units don't have the scout ability. And the moment that you add them to the GIGACHADs, the jungle fighters can't scout themselves. But Harker doesn't have this problem. In addition to his core abilities, he also brings a couple of unique ones. The first one being Harker's Hellraisers. In the past, this has been an ability that improves the damage output of the unit that Harker's leading, but they've completely switched it, put it on its head, and now it's something that acts as a defensive buff. So while this model is leading a unit, each time a ranged attack targets that unit, if the attacking model is more than 12 inches away, subtract 1 from the hit roll. In basic terms, whilst Harker is leading a unit, they have stealth. Now, I need to be honest with you guys for a moment. I haven't field tested this ability yet, and I think it might look better on paper than it is in reality. And the reason for this is, I tend to find that GIGACHADs work really well as a first wave, as an initial screen. Something that you can scout move forward, and it can screen the rest of your army, push back enemy early deep strikers and stuff like that. What I'm saying is, they tend to be getting close to the enemy. They tend to be getting up close and personal. And so it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility for an enemy unit to get within 12 inches of these guys very quickly and just start blasting them off the table, and Harker's Hellraisers not really helping. But having said all that, and it's getting to those later turns of the game, and you happen to have a blob of guard infantry sat on an objective, and if you hold that objective, you're going to get some primary points, and that might just be the difference that lets you win the game. And your opponent identifies this and they're like, right, I'm going to get all of my shooting together. I've got enough scraplers left that I should be able to deal with 10, 20 guardsmen. And they start shooting and they realize suddenly, oh, there's a -1 to hit on that unit. And they don't have the firepower that it takes. And you manage to hold that thing and you get the points. I know it seems like quite a specific situation, quite niche. But I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years' time, we hear guard players telling epic stories about how that one time Harker's Hellraisers won them the game. At the end of the day, however you slice it, it's hard to look down upon a -1 to hit ability, especially in the guard when we have very, very few sources of that. But moving on to Harker's second ability, this is payback time, or as I like to call it, it's Harkin time. Once per battle, when this model is selected to shoot, it can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the phase, its payback weapon has an attack characteristic of 6 and the sustained hits 3 ability instead of sustained hits 1. Basically, Harker is a massive fan of Vasquez and the Aliens movie, and once per battle, he can go, "Let's rock!" It's absolutely wild. It's so stupid and I love it. If Harker somehow manages to get a 6 on all 6 of his heavy bolter attacks, he will do 18 heavy bolter hits. He can single-handedly mow down entire squads of Primaris Marines. Entire broods of Termagants will be turned into green or red paste. I don't know what colour their blood is. You know what the point is. They just get scythed down. But putting aside the meme for just a second, even without getting 6s on everything, you're still looking at a really, really strong ability. Because Harker can very easily hit on a 2+, as we've said before, with the fact that he can get take aim and Blitzskill 3+. So your 6 attacks, you're going to hit with 5 of them. One of those is going to be a 1, that's going to miss, and one of those should be a 6 statistically, which generates 3 extra hits. So actually, Harker ends up in a single volley of its Harkin time, doing 7 hits with his heavy bolter. And there's very little in this game that wants to get hit by that amount of firepower, especially from a single model. And we're not even taking into account the other stuff that's going to be in your army. We're looking at Harker self-contained right now and he's looking pretty spicy. But what about if you factor in Sentinels? Suddenly he's got reroll 1s. Maybe he doesn't miss with any of his attacks. Maybe that reroll also becomes a 6. And suddenly Harker's looking at double digits worth of hits, right? Also, you've got things like Fields of Fire and the Exterminator's Withering Hail. Potentially, Harker could be hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s with 6 attacks with sustained hits 3 at AP -3. And hell, maybe there's a Hellhound in there and you're ignoring cover. That is a lot of buffs being stacked up. But remember, we're not stacking these buffs on Harker alone. This is the guard. We pick 2 units a turn, we stack all our buffs onto those 2 units, and then we delete them. Everything I've described isn't actually that far-fetched. It's probably something you were doing anyway, and Harker just happens to massively benefit from all of these buffs. And the cherry on top, like I said before, is Harker's pretty self-contained, and this extends also to his final ability, which he can do orders. This officer can issue 1 order to a Catachan jungle fighter unit. Sure, it's only 2 Catachans, but he's going to be in Catachans. He's going to be leading them. So on a very, very basic level, whether you want to take advantage of Hellraiser in a complicated way, payback, all these things, at a very simple level, Harker is an officer who can join a Catachan jungle fighters unit. He brings with him heavy firepower, which is something they lack because they can only take flamers, and he can scout so he can keep up with them, and he can also order them. You don't need to worry about missing out on scout because you've added a unit that doesn't have that ability. You don't need to worry about having Master Voxcasters and Lord Solars to make sure you can give orders to those units that are pushing forward. He literally joins a unit and that unit just looks after himself. At a very basic level, that's a very useful thing for Harker to bring to the table. Now, all of this is sounding pretty great, and that's because it is. But if you're a veteran guard player, you're going to be thinking to yourself right now, what's the catch? Where's the rub? Well, unfortunately, there is one small fly in the ointment. It's not a big fly, it's like a little midgie. And that's Harker's points costs. At the time of recording this video, he does come in at a slightly eye-watering 60 points. If you're a Marine player listening to that, you're going to probably choke on your milkshake and be thinking, how the hell does Guard consider that to be an expensive character? Well, in the context of things, he is kind of pricey. That's more than a Commissar and a Preacher, although arguably he is much better than them. But it's more than a Cajun Castellan. He's bringing a lot to the table. It's more than Creed. She's really good. It's the same cost as a Death Corps Marshal. It's the same cost as a Platoon Command Squad. And you kind of have to ask yourself, is Harker bringing more to the table than them? Is he bringing the same amount to the table as them? Sure, the Death Corps Marshal doesn't have the same damage output, but he is bringing a 5+ Feel No Pain, a whole unit. That doesn't matter if you're within 12 inches or if you're 100 inches away. That Feel No Pain is always on. And that Platoon Command Squad can give your whole unit a 6-up Feel No Pain and brings a fair amount of firepower itself. Officer with a plasma pistol, you can have 3 special weapons. Hell, you could even take a heavy bolter and a grenade launcher, which goes some way to matching payback. How I see it is like this. If you're a hardcore Kachan guy, you're probably going to be taking this guy anyway, and you should. He is a great source of scouting orders, and he brings a little bit of long-range firepower that your infantry typically lack. But if you are bringing a mixed guard force, perhaps you've got 80 infantry in your army, 4 blobs of 20, and 3 of those blobs are already taken up by Death Corps Krieg, and you happen to take 1 blob of 20 to do a little bit of screening and scouting. If you've got enough points at the end of your list, or it's not that hard to rearrange things, maybe you drop a Commissar and a Death Mask and suddenly you've got the points you need, I would say put Harker in. I wouldn't massively go out of my way. I wouldn't put him at the list at the very beginning, say this is a unit I must include. But if you get to the end and you can squeeze him in, it's probably a good call to do so. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you going to be taking Harker every single time, or do you think he is a bit of a nice to have? As always, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to all of the channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. You truly are the lifeblood of the channel, and I couldn't do this full time without you. And I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to all of my top tier supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So thank you so much to Alan Blunt III, Amy DeSweet, Bon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Once again, guys, thank you. Genuinely couldn't do this without you. Your incredible and generous support just makes a huge difference. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.